The Orlando Magic have quietly been cruising their way to a really impressive season. They're on pace to win 48 games and have a real chance to enter the playoffs with home court advantage, but at face value, the catalyst behind such a great year might not jump out at you. Of course, Paolo in just his second year made the All-Star team, Franz is nearly averaging 20 a game, Jalen Suggs is making his case for all defense, and while they all do deserve credit, it's actually been their bench that consistently drives the ship forward. You could make the argument that they've got the best second unit in the league, more specifically on defense, and leading the charge during that time has been no other than a finally healthy Jonathan Isaac. A large chunk of Isaac's time on defense is spent roaming the backline as a sort of secondary rim protector. He's really good at making reads in these spots. On this one, he starts to slide away from the corner to tag a roll, then anticipates a skip pass and recovers to jump the lane. He's one of the rangiest athletes in the league, meaning he can cover a ton of ground very quickly. Just look at this one. He's in the complete opposite corner when Hartenstein catches the ball with momentum and not only beats him to the basket, but with time to go vertical and send away a dunk. The main reason he's so effective as a roamer is because he's such a big presence around the rim. This time when he goes vertical, Coby White makes a business decision to instead kick it out, then a second attacker puts it down and actually tests Isaac, only to find out the hard way. When it comes to shot blocking, Isaac really checks every box. First is his size, length, and ability to explode vertically off of 2 feet. What stands out about his verticality is that he doesn't really need any sort of load up. When Ramsey catches the ball on the baseline, Isaac's stationary on the other side of the rim. No running start, no squatted position, and in a matter of microseconds, he's sending that thing to the front row. Because he's such a quick leaper, that also means he has an incredible second jump. This time you're going to see him slide in front of Booker and block a floater right into the hands of a rolling center, only to immediately get back up and reject a slam. Here's another example. As Giannis tries to take him one-on-one, he perfectly times up the attempt at a hook shot, but it goes right back to him. Then he bites on an up fake, so Giannis sees a window of opportunity only for jump number 3 to do the trick. All of these athletic traits are only effective if you know how to target the ball, and boy does Isaac get a hand on everything. Here he's a touch late sliding down and fully extends his arm to wipe away a layup from the other side of the paint. On the season, he's only playing about 15 minutes a game, which we'll talk more about later, and due to that limited number, I'll be using per possession statistics. He's averaging just under 3 blocks every 75 possessions. That's 4th in the NBA among players with at least 900 minutes, and more than notable names like Chet Holmgren, Brook Lopez, Anthony Davis, Rudy Gobert, you get the idea. It isn't just blocking shots where his impact is felt around the basket though. Even when he doesn't get a hand on the ball, he's altering shots in some way, whether it's through great verticality, maybe perfect positioning, and opposing players are shooting more than 19% worse than their expected percentage at the rim with Isaac contesting, good for 1st in the NBA among those who have defended at least 100 such shots. That ability to protect the rim allows him to operate more like a 5 when needed. This time you're going to see him drop back against pick and roll and perfectly time up his contest of a driving lay. Orlando will often throw out lineups with him as the lone shot blocker, and the guy is just everywhere, defending against screening action, taking away bigs, and picking up potential attackers as he sees fit. Most importantly though, is that when operating in the middle, he can execute every single pick and roll coverage. I already mentioned drop, where priority number 1 is shutting off the paint and living with the mid-range, but earlier in that exact same game, he also jumped out in a hedge, which turned away a drive and forced the ball out of Monk's hands before recovering to Sabonis down low for a huge rejection. And just under a minute later, the Kings set up pick and roll again, except now Isaac's gonna blitz the ball and deflect a pass to the roller for a turnover. He's not at all afraid to hunt for steals, especially against pick and pop. You'll see him gamble quite a bit, which helps him force a decent amount of turnovers. With that said, the risky style of lane defense also leaves him more vulnerable to a play like this where he doesn't get the steal, leaving Wemby with a lane to attack. He's never truly out of a play though. Once again, it comes back to that rangy athleticism. This play starts with him switching onto a guard, and when the ball gets moved around, he finds himself having to make a tough recovery to the paint, which he of course makes look easy. That switchability is another thing he brings to the table. Here he picks up Keyonte George after a screen, and when George thinks he has him beat on a drive, his layup gets wiped off the glass. You'll see a lot of plays like this where he picks up a perimeter player and it looks like he gets beat, but his ability to recover is just absurd. For a lot of perimeter defenders, once an attacker gets that first step by their hip, it's tough to alter shots. Isaac, on the other hand, invites these blow-bys, and at times it seems like he even prefers them. This really helps when he has to defend against screens. On this one, he has to chase Paul George, and after taking an angle over the top, he finds himself chasing from behind, where he picks up a ridiculous block. These sorts of plays give him a ton of utility at the point of attack. Again, he goes over a screen and finds himself beat off the dribble, only to make an incredible recovery from behind. Very few defenders, if any, are scarier in rear pursuit. Here's another one where he goes over, and Devin Vassell's gonna try to utilize that in-between space to get to the mid-range. Only Isaac and his massive frame absolutely smother him. Because of his unique physical profile, he can even do things at the point of attack that you won't see replicated around the league, like this play where he goes under the screen, to which LeBron tries a three-point floater only to get denied. And of course, in the event that Isaac tries to fight through a screen but gets hit, he can seamlessly switch onto the big, once again putting him in position to roam the floor as a rim protector. All that's to say, I don't think we've ever seen a defender quite like Jonathan Isaac. Don't get me wrong, the league's had its fair share of super versatile and switchable bigs, most recently names like Draymond, Bam, or Anthony Davis, but I really think Isaac is becoming the gold standard for defensive versatility in the sense that he can play literally every role on the floor. Need him to chase wings around screens off ball? He'll make himself skinny over the top and get a hand up to make it a tough look. Here's another example. When chasing DeRozan, he gets clipped by the screen, so DeMar thinks he's got room to turn and shoot. Not quite. You can't shoot over the guy, which really stands out on a play like this where he's matched up with Victor Wembanyama one-on-one, bites on an up fake, yet still gets a great contest on the jumper. Isaac's one physical weakness is that by nature of such a fluid and lanky frame, he doesn't have that strong center of gravity to stonewall guys in the post, but I think he does a great job of positioning himself to absorb contact where once again you can't shoot over him. Here's a great example of what I mean. Look at his stance and the way he angles his body versus LeBron, holding his ground without fouling, then contesting a fadeaway. And if his attacker gets lazy while backing down, he'll use those sharp hands to make a play on the ball. He's only defended 22 post-ups that ended in a shot attempt this season, so we're talking a really small sample, but in limited volume, he's only allowed 0.89 points per possession, good for the 94th percentile. The way he angles and positions his body to absorb contact also helps him in space. Here's one against AD, and I want you to focus on how he takes a slight jump. Both feet are off the floor as he takes that shoulder bump, which allows him to remain in solid guarding position. What really stands out in these spots though is his lateral quickness. You won't find many near 7-footers sliding their feet like this to take away drives. He's more than comfortable picking up elite perimeter isolationists and really applying aggressive pressure. On this one, he forces Luka into an awkward floater, and it's not just side-to-side agility, but also the way he swings his hips to change directions. I mean, just look at this. Incredible one-on-one defense against one of the fastest players in basketball. Again, it's a small sample, having defended just 31 perimeter isolations, yet he's holding those guys to an impressive 0.55 points per possession, which lands him in the 97th percentile. By any measure of defense you want to look at, this guy not only holds his own, but actually excels, making reads and great plays as a helper, protecting the rim and blocking shots at a high level, playing multiple positions, whether that's defending the pick and roll as a 5, at the point of attack like a guard, or chasing shooters around off-ball screens, switching across the board, and a couple other things I didn't even get into, like his non-stop motor, ability to rebound, and how he seemingly never fouls. He completely fills the defensive box score. Only 2 players in the NBA are averaging at least 1.5 steals and 2.7 blocks every 75 possessions. Him and Victor Wembanyama. You could argue even that doesn't do his impact justice though. Orlando has the second best defense in the NBA with a rating of 111.6, and even in limited minutes, he's pretty clearly the driving force. With him on the floor, that mark is 104.7, levels beyond elite, and with him off, they're still good at 113.5. But a near 9-point swing is massive. That value is reflected in the team's overall performance as well. A plus 14.4 net rating in his minutes, with arguably the best bench in the NBA, and actually losing the minutes that he's not out there. So why does he only play 15 minutes a game? I think some of it has to do with offensive limitations, where in certain matchups, other guys just make more sense. But most of it probably comes back to injuries. He's only played in 62 games since the bubble 4 years ago, and this is his first season playing at least 50 games since KD was on the Warriors. I'd say without a doubt that if he played 30 or so minutes a game while remaining healthy, he'd be a lock for the all-defensive first team and would show up on a ton of ballots for Defensive Player of the Year. But with that restriction, he's kind of been an afterthought for a Magic squad that's been battling for home court advantage. In other words, if they unleash this guy in the playoffs, I feel bad for any offense that has to deal with his defensive brilliance. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to drop a like, subscribe, and turn my post notifications on to be first on more content. If you're interested in my more in-depth research, make sure to check out my website and social media profiles. You can find those links in the description. Feel free to let me know down in the comments what you think of Isaac. As always, I hope you all have a great day, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.